Hi guys, today you are going to learn how to solve multi-step inequalities. So this is very similar to what we did yesterday with solving one-step inequalities, just adding an extra step or so. In order to solve multi-step inequalities, we have a few steps here and we have some helpful hints. The goal is to isolate the variable. So just like when we were solving equations, when we solve an inequality, we need to isolate the variable. That means we want to get it on one side by itself. All right, we want to use inverse or opposite operations. If there are parentheses, this usually means that you have to use the distributive property. And this is something that we already know how to do. All right. We also want to make sure that we combine like terms if necessary. So if we have multiple terms with the same variable, we want to make sure we combine those. Next, you want to get rid of the thing that is farthest away from the variable first. So usually this is going to be addition or subtraction. All right, we want to remember when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip our inequality symbol. And then finally, we're going to create and graph the solution on a number line. So we're going to do some practice problems here. We're going to solve these and then we're going to graph them. So let me go ahead and scroll down here. All right, so this first one here, we have negative 2x plus 5 is greater than negative 85. So we want to remember, just like we were doing in the line down the equal sign, we're still going to draw our line down our inequality symbol, just so we know that whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other as well. So I want to isolate my variable, which is x, and in order to do that, I have to get rid of my other numbers here. So again, we're going to look at what's farthest away from the variable, away from x, which is my plus 5. So we want to use the opposite operation. So we are going to subtract 5 from both sides here. Our plus 5 minus 5 cancels out and leaves us with just negative 2x on the left. We've got our inequality symbol. And then we have negative 85 minus 5. Now, we want to, anytime we're subtracting like this, we want to change it. We want to do keep change opposites. We're going to keep our negative 85, actually change it to addition, and like take the opposite of negative 5, or of 5, which is positive 5. Sorry about that. So negative 85 plus negative 5 is going to give us negative 90. All right. Now we're going to go through and get rid of our negative 2. So I want to divide both sides by negative 2. These are going to cancel out. And then I have negative 90 divided by negative 2. Remember, bad thing happens to a bad person is positive. So what we're left with is x on the left and 45 on the right. Now, the thing we have to remember is since we divided by a negative number, we need to flip our inequality symbol. So this is not going to be x is greater than 45. It's actually going to be x is less than 45. Now, I also want to come over here and graph, and I'm going to choose a different color just so it's less confusing. I'm going to draw a number line, and I can do that up here. It doesn't have to be a crazy long number line. It doesn't have to be full of numbers. We just need to make sure that our numbers are there. So I'm going to put 45 right in the middle here. And then I'm going to fill in a couple more numbers just so I can show the direction. Now, since we said x is less than 45, we are going to put an open circle because it is not going to be equal to 45. And then my arrow is going to point to the numbers that are less than 45. So it's going to point to the left. So I'm going to draw in my line and my arrow pointing in that direction. Okay, so let's move over here to number 2. For this one, we have 11 is greater than or equal to 13 plus m over 4, or m divided by 4. So again, we want to get our variable on one side by itself. And to do that, I want to get rid of this plus 13. So I'm going to draw my line, and then I am going to subtract 13 from both sides. My 13s over on the right cancel out, and 11 minus 13 is going to leave me with negative 2 is greater than or equal to m divided by 4. Now, I want to get rid of my divide by 4, so I'm going to multiply 4 on both sides. These are going to cancel out. Negative 2 times 4, bad thing happens to a good person, is bad, so I'm left with negative 8 on the left is greater than or equal to m. Now, the only problem with this is we always want to write our variable first. So I'm going to flip that around. So my inequality is actually going to be m is less than or equal to negative 8. Again, I want to graph my inequality. So I'm going to draw my number line. And I want to make sure, again, that my negative 8 is in here kind of in the middle. So I'm going to add a couple more numbers on here to show that. Okay, and since m is less than or equal to negative 8, I'm going to put my closed circle on negative 8, and then I'm just going to draw my arrow pointing to the left because the numbers that are less than that. So I'm just going to draw my arrow out here to show the direction. All right. So let's go on to number 3 and do some more practice. This time in number 3, we do have a set of parentheses, which tells me that I am going to use the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute my negative 5 to both terms in my parentheses. So when I do this, negative 5 times 2w is going to give me negative 10w plus negative 5 times 1 is going to be negative 5 is less than or equal to 70. All right, so now again, I'm going to just go ahead and draw my line. We are going to start getting rid of our numbers so we can isolate our variable. So I want to get rid of this negative 5. Since it's plus negative 5, I could subtract negative 5, but remember, if we're subtracting a negative, it's like adding a positive, because we can do keep, change, opposite. So this is going to cancel out by adding 5 on both sides. I'm left with negative 10w on the left, and I'm left with 75 on the right. All right, so now I need to get rid of this negative 10, and since it's negative 10w, that's negative 10 times w, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. All right, my negative 10s cancel out and leave me with just w. Remember, since I'm dividing by a negative number, I need to flip my inequality symbol. And then 75 divided by negative 10 is going to leave me with negative 7.5 or negative 7.5. All right, so I do want to graph this on a number line. And again, I don't need to add a ton of numbers, but I do want to show my number here. So I'm going to put negative 7 here. I'm going to put negative 8, negative 9, and negative 6. So we can kind of show where these are. Now, negative 7.5 is going to be between negative 7 and negative 8, which would be right about here. And since it is greater than or equal to, I am going to put a closed circle on 7.5. And since we're looking at greater than, I'm drawing my arrow to the right towards our bigger numbers. All right. So let's take a look at number 4. Change back to my blue pen here. And again, we want to combine our like terms here. We want to simplify as much as we can. Since we have a negative 2y and plus 5y, I want to combine those. I don't want to start adding or subtracting anything yet. I just want to combine those two terms. Since we have a positive and a negative, we're actually going to subtract, because remember, same you add, different you subtract. So since we have different signs, we're going to subtract. 5y minus 2y is 3y. And since 5 is bigger and 5 is positive, 3y is going to be positive. So this is going to combine to be 3y plus 24 is less than 96. All right, so I'm going to draw my line. And now I want to get y by itself. So I want to get rid of plus 24, and I'm going to do that by subtracting 24 on both sides. So what that leaves me with is 3y on the left, and when I subtract here, I'm left with 72 on the right. So I have 3y is less than 72. Now I want to get rid of my 3, so since it's 3y, it's 3 times y. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And when I do 72 divided by 3, I am left with 24. So what this is telling me is y is less than 24. So when I come over here to graph my inequality, I'm going to draw my number line. I'm going to put 24 somewhere over here in the middle. And just kind of fill in my number line. Since y is less than 24, it's going to be an open circle because it's not equal to 24. And since we're talking less than, my arrow is going to go to the left to the numbers that are less than 24. All right. Now we're going to take a look at number 5. Number 5, we've got some parentheses, we've got some like terms, so we're going to put it all together. All right. First, we're just going to bring down our 44 is greater than, and then we're going to take a look at what we have here. We have 2x minus parentheses negative 2x plus 8. Remember, if we have a minus sign and then parentheses, that's like distributing a negative 1. So I'm going to distribute it, use the distributive property. I'm going to distribute a negative 1 to both terms in the parentheses. So I am still going to have 2x, but then negative 1 times negative 2x. Remember, bad thing happens to a bad person is positive. So negative 1 times negative 2x is just positive 2x. And negative 1 times positive 8 is negative 8. So we've got our minus 8 here. So now I'm simplifying my expression some, but now I still have 2x plus 2x. So I can combine those like terms. So I'm going to rewrite my inequality, and I'm going to simplify that. 2x plus 2x is 4x minus 8. So now I can go forward with solving. I want to get rid of my minus 8, so I'm going to add 8 on both sides. Minus 8 plus 8 cancel out, and 44 plus 8 is 52. So I have 52 is greater than 4x. Now, I want to get rid of this 4 attached to my x. So since 4x means 4 times x, I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. 52 divided by 4 is 13. So 13 is greater than x. And remember, we want to rewrite our inequality so that our variable is first. So this is actually telling us x is less than 13. So the last thing I'm going to do here is to make my number line so that I can graph this inequality. All right, so 13 we're going to put kind of in the center here and fill in my number line some. All right, so my inequality is x is less than 13, not going to be equal to, so it's going to be an open circle on 13. And since we're talking about less than, we're going to draw our arrows to the left, just showing the numbers less than 13. So we've got our arrow to the left and an open circle. Okay, hopefully this helped. You're going to do an activity to practice now. If you have any questions about these notes, or if you need to pause it or go back and take a look at any of this again, that's fine. If not, if you have any questions, ask your teacher, and we'll get started on the activity to practice.